Hello everyone, welcome to D&D Encounters log, week 3 of the log. I am your host, Jeremy, of course. This week there's really not that much to tell because, well, this week was preparation for the upcoming season that's going to be starting next week. But before that, new surroundings. I am no longer in the hotel room that I was in. Instead, I am in what I affectionately refer to as Base of Operations Number 2. Some friends of mine from Facebook have graciously offered their home and their refrigerator and their kitchen to me. So, staying here for a little bit while I try and get my feet under me and expand my work view out to Portland and Vancouver, Portland, Oregon, Vancouver, Washington. So, but of course, Wednesday nights, still doing the D&D thing. I may actually end up moving to a game store up here and join one of the Encounters groups up here because now it is quite a long trek to Salem. And I, I am kind of emotionally tied to that group in Salem, but I may end up going to a group here just for the sake of, saving gas. So, but we'll see how that goes. But anyway, like I said earlier, is character creation, which basically we're trying to figure out who in what group would end up taking what role. And as it turns out, there's starting from the next session onward, and actually starting from character creation day, it's also some leftover from the last session. There's going to be a lot of people in this encounter group. So much that the guy who's running it, the DM, decided to actually maybe split it up into two different groups. So we can have two different groups running the same story, and so that kind of affected how we ended up creating our characters. Uh, Another reason for that being was we have a lot of strikers going on. We have one person who brought in a ranger character. Uh, And then me, I had a hard time picking what character I was going to do. Most of mine were also strikers. So another striker here. So we had like about three strikers. We had a wizard, cleric going on. Like I said, it ended up there were going to be like about 8 or 9 people going to be doing this next season. So like I said, DM decided to deploy one of us as a secondary DM so that we can have two groups going. Uh, I do have to say, the second DM is not me. I am nowhere near comfortable enough to DM a game yet, and besides that, that would be a little bit of a time investment that I really can't afford right now since I have to get a job. So, yeah, not the DM. Maybe if it had been a little further in my evolution and I had a job going on and all that, maybe I'd have said yes. But otherwise, no. Bird, not DMing yet. So, uh, like I said, I had a whole fleet of characters to choose from. And part of the reason for that is that I got into Wizards of the Coast D&D character builder, and it's a very useful tool. It's got all the latest rules plugged into it. You can make it for various different settings, uh, like the Forgotten Realms, which is the most common one and the one used in Encounters, uh, the Dark Sun universe, Eberron. I realize these names, for most of you, probably have no meaning. For me, they have minimal meaning because I've never ever been in them. But but they also had one set aside specifically for building encounters characters, and that's the one that I use most often. And actually, yeah, I brought like about 7 different characters with me to choose from, all built for this encounter. And let me, one second. Let me actually show you the one that I went with. Unfortunately, there's not going to be like any pop-ups of the scan page going on here because I don't have a scanner right now. But I can just look at my sheet and I tell you. His name is Varus, and he's a half-elven hexblade warlock. The warlock being the actual class, the hexblade being kind of the variety of warlock that he is. He is good. All characters in this season of encounters are either lawful good, good aligned, or unaligned, meaning neutral, because we're going to be going up against evil characters. So evil characters right out. As for the race, what we could pick for this season was pretty much anything except drow. You know. So, uh, but yeah, Varus is a male. Of course, he's level 1 right now. Language is Common, Elven, and Deep Speech, which I think is like an ancient, some kind of ancient Fey language. Uh, yeah, he doesn't have his defenses are kind of fairly balanced. They're not like super strong. They're more balanced. It's got a armor class of 16, fortitude of 13, reflex 13, will of 15. +3 to his initiative roll, and a speed of 5. But my favorite thing about this guy, like I said, his defenses are a little more balanced. He's got a moderate amount of HP, starting out 26. But what really is awesome about this guy is that his 2 strengths are dexterity and charisma, which are the 2 stats that warlocks really, that hexblades really use. And the specific kind of hexblade that he is he is uh, of the Fey Pact White Well, which basically means all of his attacks, all of his main attacks, his melee basic and his ranged basic, do radiant energy, which radiant energy, think like sunlight, you know, which I figured since we're going to be taking on drow and evil characters, radiant energy probably would be a good thing to have. Like I said, his strongest statistics right now are dexterity and charisma, +3 to dexterity, +4 mod on charisma. So, good luck there. Yes. Okay. Brief cameo from the fine lady who is putting me up in here. Uh, Apparently dinner is ready. But yeah, all of the melee attacks are, well, for one thing, they use the highest stat because of the feat that I picked. They all use the charisma stat. So I figured since that stat ended up being the highest, might as well use that for my attacks. Oh, And also, a little thing extra. My character Varys is a Sid Lord. What that means, basically, is that he has the ability to summon from another dimension a a guardian to help him fight. He can send that out and have it help to flank against enemies or attack for him, and basically kind of have like a little extra HP. So that kind of helps the fact that his defenses aren't really super great, and that is HP is not so great. But really, the best thing about this, like I said, he does damage with his charisma stat, and that boosts his at will attacks, his attacks that he can use every turn. With his Sword of the White Whale, like I said, it does. It's a weapon, but it also does radiant damage. So anything that's vulnerable to radiant gets a little extra hurt. And as a result, his sword uh, can attack the reflex defense with a +6 modifier and do 1d12 +5 damage, which means max damage on the standard at will attack melee range, he can do up to 17 points of damage on one attack. That's a hurt. But I also have an encounter power that I can use with once each battle, which allows me to roll 2d12 +7 damage. So that means I can do a max damage on that strike of 31 in one shot. If I were to crit with this, I would be doing 31 damage right like that. Plus, if they're vulnerable to radiant energy, that would add that on as well. And actually, with that encounter power, it creates an aura about me that if there are any enemies involved, the next attack that they take is going to do 3 extra hurt. Because they're vulnerable for 3 points of damage to radiant while they're in that aura. Let's see. The ranged basic attack is a hand crossbow. I actually added that in myself. It wasn't given to me right off. I had to add that in to give him a little extra. Yeah. Crossbows, though, you have to load as a minor action. And that's +5 against armor class and d6 +3 damage. But I do have a better attack that's plus it's +4 against reflex, but it does a d10 +7, so a max damage of 17. So I can put the hurt. Also, I have an at-will reaction power, which means I can take this whenever this trigger happens over and over and over again. But only once per round. It does have that limiter, but that's actually in the actual power text. What that is called soul stat, and its trigger is whenever either I kill an enemy or one of my allies kills an enemy that's next to me. When that happens once every round, so basically until it gets right back around to me again, or until everyone else has acted. It can teleport me as many steps as my dexterity modifier is. So at this point, 3 steps. And I believe teleportation doesn't invoke any attacks of opportunity, so that definitely helps. But actually, that's all well and good. But like I said, I can summon a ally to help me fight, and that's actually the real fun part. Because, well, let me see what I wrote down on all this stuff on the actual official character sheet. Oh yeah, all of its defenses are my stats. So it has the same powers as me. If it dies, I lose a healing surge or my healing surge value in HP, which would be 6 HP. Uh, its HP is half of mine, so 13. Uh, it can be dismissed as a minor action. It is a daily power, a minor action daily power. I can send it out at a range of 5, and I do have to expend my actions to command it on my turn, but as pretty, I can command it pretty much no matter what happens. About the only thing that can stop me from being able to command my ally, my summoned Sid ally, would be, you know, it ended up in a room that got the door shut between him and I. So, yeah, and it has the same as my melee basic attack. So that's basically like an extra power. Um, oh, uh, even though I didn't pick it, I did decide to keep one of my characters as a backup, just in case Varys happened to bite the dust. An Elven Ranger, +5 to initiative roll, speed of 7, armor class 18, fortitude 11, not that great, reflex 13, 16 rather, will is 13. But that's not the important thing. The important thing is, for one thing, +5 dexterity mod, which really helps attack rolls and such. Um, its HP is not so great, only 22, but it has a power where as long as it has a short sword and it's offhand, it has an at-will attack where it can attack with both a long sword and a short sword at the same time. Let's see, that's +8 versus AC. Yeah. And its damage is a D6 +5 and a D8 +5. So that's basically striking with the long sword and the short sword. And that's my star power on this because it is the heavy hitter of the group. Oh, and also this one also has power strike, so if I were to hit with that attack, I could put an additional D8 of damage on top of that. So, and it's also got some other powers that boost its attack and defense, depending on what allies are nearby and what allies are far, and what enemies are around. But yeah, that's my backup. But my main is going to be a warlock. So I made the joke with the group that it might be subject to change over the week, but now that I put it on this video, it is set in stone that I'm using the hex blade as my main. So, you know. And also, full disclosure, I did get me a proper dice bag, and I also got me some additional dice as well. I'll just bring out one, and of the new ones, and I'll show it to you. Yeah. It's just kind of black, translucent, uh, with white numbers. The reason why I did that is because of, I'm starting to create more characters that need multiple dice to do multiple hits, and also as that gets more powerful, I again will need multiple dice to do multiple hits, which definitely will be the case in this case, since the characters are going to be going up to level 8. So, I thought this was going to be a short episode, but it turns out not to be the case. I rambled on about the characters I created, and like I said, the characters I got, they're just two of like an entire arsenal of characters that I have. But since this is the D&D Encounters log, I'm only going to be discussing the ones I'm going to be using in Encounters. If I get a different group going, I might do a different set of videos for that, just so you know. But yeah, that's it. Next week, the new campaign starts, and we get to lay the smackdown on the very drow that we were playing just last week. Hopefully, I once again stay alive to the very last second. So that's all I've got this week. Hopefully, I'll have very fun things to tell you next week. So until next time, I'm Jeremy. This is the D&D Encounters log. Later, y'all.